Hi everybody, it's Christina. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a few weeks. I'll chat about why and then I'll get into my reading update. So in my last video, I did mention that I would be traveling, which I did. I went to New York City for about 4 to 5 days. I was there 4 days, came home the 5th day. I had a great trip. I saw 6 shows in those 4 days. I also went on a tour of the New York Public Library, and I did some used book shopping at Book Off as well. I did post about all of this on my Instagram. If you would like to see mini vlogs of my trip, most of them are up on my main Instagram account, which is just at Adventures in Polishland. I will put a link in the description box. I also posted the 2 bookish ones over on Polishland Reads, which is my Bookstagram account as well, if you're interested. Had a great trip, came home, got a cold a couple days later. Totally fine, just a cold, thankfully, but it's still lingering a little bit. I think that's what happens this time of year. You get sick and it takes a really long time to get over it, but I would say I'm about 90% there, so I'm feeling pretty good. Unfortunately, my reading has not been going well. I think with the travel and the sickness, I just took a step back from reading, and unfortunately, I felt really dejected about it because I had to return 3 books to the library. One of them I read about a third of it, and then 2 of them I didn't even touch, so that was disappointing, but I figured I would give you an update today. I'll wrap up the 1 book I finished since we last spoke, and then I'll tell you what book I read a little bit of before I returned it to the library. I'll mention what I'm currently reading, and then I'll share with you the 2 books that I've hauled since we last spoke as well. The 1 book that I read since we last spoke is When Haru Was Here by Dustin, Thao. This is a YA contemporary story. I heard about it from Steve Donahue's channel, and if Steve recommends YA, that means it's going to be really good. This, I read the first 20 pages or so over the course of 2 days, and then I sat down and I read the remainder of the book all in one day. It was so good, I could not put it down. We're following our main character, Eric. There are 2 chapters set in the before times, and then the rest of it takes place later on in Eric's life. So we learn in those early chapters that his sister Jasmine is moving away to college, and they're really close, so he's a little concerned about what it's going to be like when she's not at home anymore. We also find out that he's been getting really close to his friend Daniel. They share a kiss on the rooftop, and then the 2 of them travel to Japan for a class trip. And while they're there, Eric is by himself and he gets lost, and he meets this mysterious guy called Haru, and they spend the entire day together. Then we flash forward in time, and I'm not going to tell you any more about the plot because I think it's best discovered on your own while you're reading. This book is very, very sad. It's an exploration of grief, and it really talks about how we handle grief and what our bodies and minds are able to do in order to keep us going through life. When I got to the end of the book, I sat there with tears streaming down my face. It was just a very moving story. The writing is nothing special, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just reads very, very easily, in part because it is YA, but I highly recommend this book. I definitely want to pick up the author's other book that he published before this one, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a quick read, something that will move you, and I think it's very touching. So that was the 1 book I read. The book that I partially read before I had to return it to the library was The Life Impossible by Haig. I've never read another book by him. This one is very interesting. It's about a math teacher who's retired. Her husband and son have passed away. She finds out she has inherited a house, and the person who left the house to her, she didn't really know very well. It was this one teacher that she worked with briefly in her past, but they weren't very good friends, so it was very odd that she was left this home. But when she goes there, it's very mysterious because her friend has disappeared. She's presumed dead, but you find out that that might not be true. And then weird things start happening where our protagonist gains some sort of powers, and That's all I know before I had to return the book. I was very interested in the plotline while I was reading it, but I'm not really pushed to check it out from the library again because I think by the time I get it back, there's been a long hold list for this book. And by the time I get it back, I'll probably have forgotten most of what I read. So we'll see if I ever return to that in the future. For now, I've marked it as a DNF on Goodreads. But right now, what I'm currently reading is The City and Its Uncertain Walls by Haruki Murakami. This is the first Murakami that I've ever read. I've heard mixed things about him. I've heard from some people that he doesn't write women characters very well, but some of the other booktubers here that I follow have really great things to say about him, and I trust their judgment, so I'm giving this one a try. It is very, very interesting. I will reserve my full thoughts for when I finish it. Right now, I am at the page 195 mark, and it's about 450 pages, so I still have a while to go, but I really need to finish it this week because it's due back at the library next week. So hopefully I can get a good chunk of this done today and continue throughout the week. And then I did pick up 2 books while I was in New York City. I have always loved The Strand, but now that I usually am in Midtown when I go to New York, I've discovered Book Off there, which I believe is actually a Japanese-based used book. And they also have like manga, trading cards, figures, a whole bunch of other stuff. I go primarily for the books, obviously, and their prices are a little bit all over the place, but generally they're pretty good. So I found Less is Lost, which is the sequel to Less. This is by Andrew Sean Greer. I did really enjoy the first one. It's on my shelf. I got that at a thrift store as well. So when I saw this for $5.50, I figured I would pick it up. And then the other book that I found is the Penguin Book of Christmas Stories. It's edited by Jessica Harrison, and it's one of the cloth-bound Penguin classics. This originates at $22 retail, and it was $9.50, which I thought was fair. It has a few minor scuffs, but for being a used book with a white cloth background, I thought it was in excellent condition. There are a lot of stories in here by classic authors. So there's Hans Christian Andersen. We have Dostoevsky in here. Let's see who else we have. There were some newer ones as well. Langston Hughes, Muriel Spark, Truman Capote. So a great mix of authors. I figured this was very timely, and hopefully I will get a chance to pick it up during the Christmas season. That's everything that I have to catch you up on here in terms of my reading life. Hopefully I'll be back to weekly reading updates, but that's it for now. Let me know what you're reading in the comments, and I will see you next time.